Sheldon Johnson appears on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, a guy whose life story could have been one of those feel-good comeback tales, but instead, it took a turn nobody saw coming.
And when I saw him, he had a bunch of jewelry on. He was with his girlfriend. She had a bunch of jewelry on. And I said, hey, man, where's my money at? Oh, yo, I was going to pay you. As far as I was concerned, his jewelry we was even. So I robbed him. And I took his jewelry. And his girlfriend happened to be there. And unfortunately, she got caught up in the situation.
He's there to share his journey from being in deep trouble with the law, spending 25 years in jail for attempted murder and robbery, to turning his life around and helping others do the same. It was the kind of story that makes you believe in second chances. Sheldon talked about his old days in a gang and his long stretch in prison, but the focus was on the new leaf he turned over. He was all about making things right, working with kids to keep them on a good path, and living a life his family could be proud of.
In and out the box, solitary confinement, which has been considered as unconstitutional now. And I remember just having these moments of reflection and just asking myself, like, what are you gonna do? Can you spend the next 48 years living like this? And I said I couldn't do it. And it was at that moment where I really said, I have to change my life. I have to change my life. I just can't do this. I had a wife. I had family still. My son was growing up. He was hearing stories about my so-called notoriety, and I just didn't want to be that dad.
But then, everything flipped upside down. Sometime after the podcast in New York, a security camera shows the last image of a man named Colin Small entering his Highbridge apartment. A day later, police receive a phone call from one of the neighbors stating hearing a man scream, "Please don't, I have a family," followed by 2 gunshots coming from that same residence on the 6th floor.
The tenant of the apartment, he came in, he never came out. So I called police because it's suspicious.
Police make their way to the scene to conduct a welfare check. According to investigators, after making their way in, inside the apartment was Sheldon. He can even be seen in a security camera carrying cleaning supplies, wearing a wig and pulling a large blue bin. Near him, they also found Colin's torso with the rest of the body missing. Following this discovery, police were able to obtain a search warrant for Johnson's Harlem property on 5th Avenue. In the freezer, they found the missing head and limbs, leading to the murder charge. Sheldon, handcuffed and shouting about his innocence, didn't look like the guy who sat with Joe Rogan talking about changing his life. It was hard to match up the person who had inspired so many with the grim details the police were laying out. They found stuff at his place that pointed right at him being involved in something terrible. At his court appearance, Sheldon had folks there supporting him, wearing jackets claiming he was wrongly accused. People were confused and hurt. How could the man who spoke so passionately about turning his life around be the same one involved in such a gruesome crime?
I remember like blowing trial and just not really understanding like what was being there, but not like, it was like almost surreal. And I remember when I went and got sentenced and the judge said 50 years. Now, mind you, I had a black lawyer, a black judge, and a white prosecutor. And I remember when he said 50 years, he said, he went into all of these reasons why he was sentencing me the way that he was sentencing me. And he just called me a menace to society, and he gave me 50 years.
Here's the messed up thing about Sheldon's story. It's about hope, change, and the possibility that someone can leave their dark past behind. But it's also a reminder that sometimes things aren't as they seem. Sheldon's journey from being celebrated on a popular podcast to being accused of a horrific crime makes you wonder about second chances and if some shadows from the past are just too long to outrun.
The rule says that you can't do this, you can't do this. This is what the rules say. And
the rules of the prison or the rules of the streets?
The gang. The rules of the streets. Yeah, there was rules.
It's a tough pill to swallow, realizing that the line between a fresh start and falling back into old ways can be thinner than we'd like to admit.